Welcome to Caregiver Cast with Elaine Petrucci. Are you overwhelmed raising a family, working full-time, caring for a parent or grandparent? It can be challenging when you're doing it alone. Caregiver Cast helps busy, burned-out professionals reduce their stress and overwhelm to create a better caregiving experience for themselves and their loved one. Caregiver Cast brings caregivers together with experts who provide information in a variety of areas. In each episode, you'll get tips on topics such as finance, legal, medical, self-care, community resources, mindset, and more. We're here to make your caregiving journey a more rewarding one. Acquire the confidence and skills to be a more capable caregiver by implementing the resources and strategies from these expert thought leaders. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. And now here's your host, Elaine Petrucci.
Welcome to Caregiver Cast. I'm Elaine Petrucci, your host. My guest speaker today is Judy Cornish, who will be talking about strength-based dementia care. Before I formally introduce Judy to you, I will give you some background information about her. Judy Cornish is an author, founder of the Dementia and Alzheimer's Wellbeing Network, or DAWN, creator of the DAWN Method, and retired elder law attorney. Her two books, the Dementia Handbook and Dementia with Dignity, take person-centered dementia care from theory to practice by teaching families how to provide strength-based dementia care. Through DAWN, Judy provides consulting, dementia coaching classes, and an online video series for families and home caregivers. Her goal is to help families learn how to truly support their loved ones and enjoy more companionship as they live with dementia. Welcome to Caregiver Cast, Judy.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Elaine.
Most definitely. All right. So you are a retired elder law attorney. And how did you go from being an elder care attorney to be interested in dementia care?
You know, for most of us, it's family, but somebody in the family who begins to experience dementia. But I thought I was going to semi-retire and practice part-time and live in a lovely little town in central Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, home of the University of Idaho and 6 miles across the border from Washington State University, two land-grant universities. Very diverse population. The first thing I did was walk across the street to say hello to this lovely little white-haired lady who was out watering tomatoes and beans after I'd arrived there. And I told her my name and she told me her name and she said, "Don't be offended. I'm experiencing Alzheimer's and I will forget your name. What was your name?" And I said, "Not a problem, because it doesn't offend me. If you can't remember things, that's fine." And we hit it off. And then her daughter came a few weeks later and said, "We're going to have to move Mom into that care facility over there because she keeps losing her car." And I said, "Hey, you know, I'm not working full time. Your mom needs to buy her groceries, so do I. We'll start doing things together. And I can let you know how she's doing." And that way, you know, I just didn't want to see her have to move. She told me she lived in the house over 50 years, raised her children there. So it was a small town. Very shortly, I was getting phone calls saying, "Hey, I hear you're helping so-and-so's mom. My dad's a little forgetful." But what happened for me was I knew nothing about dementia. All I knew was people would go crazy and they'd start forgetting things and making bad decisions and put themselves at risk and cause damage and harm. And so then they'd have to be medicated and locked up. But boy, as I got to know my neighbors by that time, that's not what I saw happening. And so I think, well, Ellen Langer, the mother of mindfulness, the first woman ever hired by Harvard as a psychology professor, way back in the 70s or the 80s. She wrote this lovely little book called Mindfulness, and she talks about the concept of context. And context, if we avoid context, we can see the big picture. And so me, when I started to get to know my neighbors, I thought, I don't think anybody here is going crazy. And what I've seen of long-term care, I'm not very happy with. So I'm going to avoid context. I'm going to do what I learned in law school. I'm going to look at the big picture, evaluate what model works best. And then I'm going to try that model and see what happens. And that's how I became involved. And that was my approach. And long story short, after a year or so, I thought, now, wait a minute, there is a pattern here. This is not random loss of memory. This is actually a pattern. And so it took me a while to put my finger on the first thing I saw happening. And it was actually very much what I experienced when I first started law school. My new friends, my new clients, my neighbors, they were experiencing finding themselves in a situation where they weren't able to use the cognitive skills they were very comfortable using. And that's the same thing that happened to me when I ended up in law school. I went from, I actually wanted to be a linguist, and I'd studied art and music and literature and dispository writing and linguistics, everything. I was But then I ended up having to go to law school instead of doing an MA TESOL, and all of a sudden I couldn't use my intuitive thinking skills. I had to use rational thinking skills. And boy, that was not pleasant. And
Mm.
so fast forward another decade or so, and all of a sudden I'm spending all my time with people who were experiencing dementia, and that was the first thing I noticed. Every one of them was struggling, feeling emotionally stressed
Mhm.
because the skills they were used to using all of a sudden weren't available. So they were attempting to deal with the world and people around them without the skills they were so familiar with. In my case, I had to quit using intuitive thinking skills to get through coursework and write essays and everything. You use your intuitive, and I had to use rational thinking alone. Now, my clients, they were losing rational thinking skills and were forced to navigate the world and relationships using intuitive thinking skills. So
Mm.
they were just as unhappy as I was my first year in law school.
That is quite
Different.
astounding that you made that discovery, um,
Yeah.
and how you were able to adapt to your situation in law school and then could apply that experience to the clients that you were helping with dementia.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
quite.
so the first time it started to click for me, and actually I was with that first neighbor.
Mhm.
And I think it's about a year later, because I began working with her in the fall of 2010. And it's about a year later, and we have our first snowfall.
Mhm.
And I pop in at her place and say, "Hey, Mary, let's go get her groceries. Let's do it together." And she says, "Okay." And I said, "Okay, it's really cold out there. So here's your big winter coat. It's time for winter coats." And she kind of looked at me and she said, "I'm putting that on." And so I thought, memory skills. She's losing her memory skills. I know this is true. Okay. So I point out the window and I say, "Mary, see, it's first snow. It's cold out there. You can see, it's like a blizzard blowing sideways." And she looks where I'm pointing. She looks out the window. She says, "Sure is. Idaho winter." And I said, "Yeah, Idaho winter. Here, put your coat on." And she
Mhm.
looks at me. She says, "No, I told you no." So now we're starting to have a problem, right?
Mhm.
She and I conflict. She's irritated, and I'm stumped. What do I do? I mean, I'm being reasonable. So I start to explain. "Oh, but Mary, see, it's cold outside. The weather has changed. You need to put your coat on, or when you step outside, you're going to be cold." And now she's really upset. And she
Mm.
just looks at me, and we are going to have trouble. I don't even think she's going to go out. I don't think she'll even go for groceries. If I were to force a coat onto her, I'll bet she would have smacked it out of the way. I'll bet she would have smacked my hand out of the way. I can picture it just, you know, getting ugly.
Mhm.
But all of a sudden, ping, here, I have the thought. I remember, whoa, wait a minute. I'm asking her to use rational thinking skills. I'm asking this woman, whom I know has been diagnosed for more than a decade with Alzheimer's, I
Mhm.
have just requested that she perceive cause and effect.
Mm.
Hey, Mary, when you go outside, even though it's 75 degrees standing here in your living room, when you step outside, you will be cold. That's cause and effect. That's one of our most basic rational thinking skills. Nobody knows we're using it because we all use it from, oh, I don't know, like, seconds after birth. Baby
Mhm.
cries, mom comes, that smiling face appears, and everybody holds you. So, cause and effect. And that's one of our most commonly used rational thinking skills. And she
Mhm.
couldn't do it. So, like, thanking my lucky stars for that stroke of genius, I said, oh, that's okay, Mary. But you know me, I'm always cold. So, do you mind if I take your coat as well as my coat? And she looks at me, she's like, no, that's okay. Okay, honey. So we get our coats, we get our purses, we go out the back door, count it, 3 seconds. That's our perception of now, according to Daniel Kahneman, our Nobel Prize winning, Daniel Kahneman of Princeton. Yeah. Um, anyways, we step out on the back porch. 3 seconds later, I've locked the door. I turn around. We're ready to walk down. And she says, oh, man, it's cold out here. And I said, oh, good thing we brought your coat, Mary. Do you want me to help you put it on? Oh, yes, please. And off we go and get our groceries with her wearing her coat. So when I say we need to recognize the strengths in dementia, what I mean is if I'm experiencing dementia, I will lose some very specific skills, rational thinking. When I'm
Mhm.
experiencing dementia, I will not lose intuitive thinking. And if you guys, anybody wants to do a deep dive into the neurology of this, go to the man, the Einstein of today, Ian McGilchrist. And he wrote two fantastic books. The first one, The Master and His Emissary, is all about how our intuitive thinking skills are our primary set of thinking skills. Our rational thinking skills are just a toolbox. They just help us be productive, but they also help us uh, interpret and organize information, such as cause and effect. That's organizing information, seeing a result, a predictable result.
Mhm.
And we lose that. We lose that set of skills to dementia. And if you don't understand it, if you are the companion of somebody who's experiencing dementia, and you don't understand that they can't see cause and effect, they can't sequence, not even 2 steps. They can't prioritize. That means they cannot understand why they should stop drinking their cup of coffee or tea so that they can go take a shower and rush with you to arrive at an appointment on time. That's prioritization.
Mhm.
Understanding an explanation. When I start telling you why or how, I have moved into the realm of comparative thinking and analysis, but everybody knows those are rational thinking skills. And we all know that when you go to the neurologist, they say that your loved one's losing executive functioning. And yet we don't put two and two together and we think, oh, well, I'll just say it slower, or I'll use littler words, or I'll be pedantic. But if I've lost my rational thinking skills, I cannot organize or comprehend or arrange information.
Mhm.
So if you want me to understand your explanation, or to perceive a sequence, steps in a task, or to perceive cause and effect, or to use prioritization, what you are doing to me, and this is why people get upset. This is why you're going to get a stress reaction, is because what you're doing to me is exactly as if I had lost my vision. Maybe I
Mhm.
had a traumatic brain injury, whatever it is. Maybe I've got macular degeneration, whatever it is. I've lost my vision. And yet you would persist in saying to me, Judy, it's right over there. Just turn your head, look that direction. See, There it is. You're asking me to use my vision skills. So when people are experiencing dementia, we need to understand that they're losing rational thinking skills, or we will just constantly embarrass them, put them on the spot, irritate, frustrate. And then we
Mm.
get these negative reactions. We get stress responses from people. Of course, that's fight or flight or freeze or fawn, the four stress reactions.
Mhm.
So that's what I lose. But you know, when you think about keeping intuitive thinking, wow, think about what
Wow.
rational thinking lets you do. You know, because rational thinking lets you organize and manage information, be productive. And your memory skills are really effective for making us productive as well. But intuitive thinking, this is our primary set of thinking skills.
Mm.
And intuitive thinking is not irrational thinking. Irrational thinking is when you do have rational thinking skills and you use them in error. You make a mistake with them.
Mm.
So to misuse rational thinking or make an error in rational thinking, you're being irrational. So those of us who are experiencing dementia, we lose the ability to be irrational. But our intuitive thinking skills are, this is our ability to see the big picture. Inductive, we receive anything we can see, hear, taste, smell, touch, anything we can feel. You know, all of our senses are constantly delivering us information. So we are completely able to enjoy companionship, enjoy beauty, and be in the present.
Mm. Mhm.
It's all there. The only problem is if I've lost rational thinking, and I'm sorry, Mary Elaine, you'll have to stop me because if we're talking about the strengths of dementia, I will keep going. But, you know, if I'm losing the ability to prioritize, to see cause and effect, to evaluate, to consider, to
Mhm.
sequence, which means I can't make a plan. Let's say, and I'm also losing my memory skills. So let's say I am, you know, that my first neighbor across the street, and she's been walking the journey now for quite a while.
Mhm.
And if I can't sequence and if I can't recall things, I'm losing my ability to know what has gone before. What happens when I'm sitting in my favorite chair in the living room and I'm petting one of my cats and I realize there's a problem? I just don't know what I should be doing. What should I be doing right now? What would I like to do right now? Well, what is it I used to do to make myself feel happy? And if I don't have that memory, I can't do it. So, like for me, cup of tea. You give me a nice hot cup of green tea, and I have a problem, something I want to figure out, or you know, if I just whatever it is, I'm very likely to go for a nice hot cup of tea to sit down and consider. But what if I'd forgotten that's my go-to? Or what if like a hot bath? One of my clients, it was a hot bath in the evening. That was how she knew it was time for bed.
Mm.
What if you forget that? Well, then you can't do it. What if you remember? I would really, really feel better if I had a hot cup of green tea. But what if you can't follow the steps in a sequence to go make it for yourself? So what I'm describing is another rational thinking skill that we refer to as the ability to initiate. To initiate requires sequencing, analysis, a bit of memory. And if I've lost those skills, I'm not going to be able to do it. So what happens is I'm going to end up just sitting here. And as I feel lost, I'm going to end up feeling sad. And if my companions don't understand that I can't initiate and bring into my presence the things that are beautiful to me, or strike up a conversation, or remember that happy story that would make you happy to remember with me, well, then I'm just going to be sitting here. And pretty soon my companions are going to look at me and say, hey, Judy looks like she's depressed. She doesn't do any of her happy things anymore. She's not taking care of herself. She used to, go for a walk. She used to drink a cup of tea. She used to take a hot bath. What's wrong with her? I guess she's depressed. Let's give her a drug. We'll give her one of those drugs that, make people not be depressed. But we forgot to ask the first question. And the first question is Judy able to remember what makes her happy and then act on it? Nope, because she's losing memory skills and rational thinking skills. So then, if see how it works together. We
Yes,
need to
do.
know what I can't do, and then we need to know what I like to do or would appreciate or enjoy. And then my companions are just the initiators for me. It's like, hey, Judy, want a hot cup of tea, or would you like to go for a walk? Oh, I think I'd like to go for a walk. And then when we come back, I'd probably like a hot cup of tea. And if you exercise your memory skills the whole time we're together, and you're saying to me, Judy, I remember when you and I met. I was out watering my tomatoes and beans in my front yard, and then you came across the street. Oh my goodness, that was a fun day, wasn't it? We ended up going, and so then the person is starting to use their memory skills on my behalf. And then caregiving isn't as heartbreaking for either one of us. That to me is what I mean when I say strength-based care is how I enable you and your loved one to both live better lives.
Well, that's so critical because I know for my mother, she had Alzheimer's and she got to a point where was unable to communicate.
Yeah.
Yet I knew taking her to like the Botanic Gardens she would really appreciate it because she tended these roses up and down our front walk that, just bloomed majestically, and she helped sometimes in the garden in the backyard. So just taking her to the Botanic Gardens and then specifically going to the rose garden and having her
Yeah.
smell or
Yeah.
touch or
Yeah.
it just really, I felt really enriched her life
Yeah.
because we were doing something that she totally enjoyed and she loved being there. She was also a walker, so I would take her to the mall
Yeah. Yeah.
and walk around with her until she acquired Parkinson's and wasn't able to do that. And yet we still went to the mall and we did window shopping or went to, look for
Yeah.
things. And I guess I found a way to help her be
Mm-hmm.
engaged, no matter what her skill set were at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And she was using like facial and body language. So you could definitely tell, how she was
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
And I think just knowing and watching her progress, yeah, I just tried my best to really incorporate the activities that she really enjoyed doing.
Mm-hmm.
I even had her attend like an adult daycare center twice a week, just so that she could be around people with similar conditions so that she could get some stimulation as well. So I think you're right. I think we have to look at the skills the person has and look at how we can engage someone by using the strengths that they still have.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I think that is a great insight for a lot of caregivers because they use rational thinking. The person gets upset and then they think that the person is upset with them and takes it personally when in fact, yes, it could be intentional against them, but it may be just because they don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. If when we lose rational thinking, um, and we keep our intuitive thinking,
Mhm.
that means we're still receiving all the sensory stimuli that we are equipped to receive. And most of us, when we experience dementia in this country, we are aging. So maybe our eyes are not as sharp as they once were, and our hearing might not be as sharp. And if it is Alzheimer's disease, you might be seeing less ability to smell or taste. Other variety types of dementia, no, you likely will not see those changes. But I'm still receiving all the sensory stimuli that's available to me. And yet, without rational thinking, I can't interpret. Without memory skills, I'm also hindered. So, for instance, you and me, or you and your mom, you're in your mom's house. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon. The back door is open, and then there's a breeze, and the door slams a little. Screen door slams, right? And all of us know the sound of a screen door slamming because we've heard it since childhood. And that was our memory skills. So you hear that screen door slam, and your memory skills tell you the screen door must have got caught in the breeze. I should go put the hook on, keep it shut.
Right.
But for your mom, without memory skills, it's a loud bang, and there's no memory skills to tell her or retrieve the memory of it being a screen door. So she needs someone to interpret that for her. Oh, gee, mom, there goes that screen door. I guess I forgot to put the hook on it. Or you hear a loud sound, and even without memory, you wouldn't be able to recognize the loud sound, but you could use your rational thinking and say, that loud sound came from the kitchen. And I know the caregiver's in the kitchen making soup for lunch. I'll bet she banged a pot against the sink. That's a loud sound. And your rational thinking helped you interpret that you did not need to be afraid. We lose those skills, but we still receive the stimuli. And so if I'm losing those skills, I'm going to need somebody to be my companion, to be my coach, to be my interpreter, who will just calmly, with no concerns, say, oh, I guess that was the back door slamming, or oh, I guess Susie's getting soup ready in the kitchen. You know, that I remember one client at one point, I had to take her to the dentist 3 weeks in a row. Week number 1. Oh yeah, and it was medical, so I'm the care plan manager, so it's going to be me, not the care team. And so I arrive, and we get into the car. I'm driving, she's in the passenger seat. I have to make a left-hand turn from a busy street through an intersection onto the highway, heading east. It's going to be a left. Okay, that's all right. So I'm not thinking anything about it. We're just driving along, and then I turn signal, click, click, click. I move into the left lane, click, click, click. Then I move into the turn, and I'm sitting there with this signal, and I'm like this, and she's there in the passenger seat. And traffic, and a car goes by, hear her, normal speed, what, 35, 40 miles an hour? And she goes like this. Okay, I'm thinking stimuli, visual stimuli, rapid movement went past her. Ooh, she had like yeah, so I'm, oh man, isn't that person driving kind of fast? They sure went through that intersection quickly, didn't they, Mary? And I talk her through it, and she's fine. A week later, same scenario, but this time she doesn't do this. She actually like recoils into my shoulder. I continue to talk her down, but now I'm a little concerned. And I'm thinking, sensory stimuli, visual. There's no memory here. She has no memory of what it means for a movement to go past rapidly while she's in a car. She must not be able, she doesn't know if it might hit her. She's truly afraid. Week 3, she hit my shoulder so hard and I was prepared. Boy, I was chattering away. Boy, the cars are going fast. See, there's going to be a car coming by you pretty fast, but it's okay. We're in the turn lane, you know, and I'm trying to just chatter away as if there is nothing to be afraid. And she hit my shoulder. She recoiled. So then it's like, okay, rewrite the care plan. If we're taking Mary out on drives, right lane only. So the next time she had to go to the dentist, it was all the way through town in big circles so that we could make right turns all the way to get her to the dentist. And if we couldn't take her out, because it was terrifying for her. So me and my team were using our rational thinking and our memory skills to make sure that her experience is a pleasant one. That's working with a person's strengths. because I know she's going to see it. She's going to see it. She's going to hear
Right.
it. She's going to feel it, smell it, touch it, whatever. She's receiving sensory information, but without analysis or without knowledge. So we build that in. And I teach my caregivers and families that one of the best tools you have is create a peaceful smile mask and wear it.
Okay. Makes sense.
Most of us, yeah, because what comes along with this intuitive thinking skill set
Hmm.
is all of the sensory data and an entire lifetime of experiential learning about what nonverbal communication means. So there's an important distinction here. If I'm wearing a peaceful smile mask and I say to my client, oh, it's just a car going by, isn't it? If it's probably going to help. It helped the first week, and I think it dampened the effect the next 2 weeks, but not sufficiently.
Okay.
But what if week number 1, when she did this, what if I was like, wow, seriously, you don't know that that won't hurt you?
Right. Then that
Oh
would,
my goodness, now
yes.
this poor woman is going to be afraid of the car. And that's going to be really dangerous for care plan, for keeping her safe. She needs to go out in the car to dentist appointments, doctor appointments,
Right.
and for sensory, to go to the arboretum, to go
Right.
see the roses. So, this is working with our strengths when we're experiencing dementia. And it's not, there is a pattern. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter whether it was Alzheimer's or FTD, Lewy
Hmm.
body, vascular Korsakoff syndrome, doesn't matter what it is, you won't lose the, those are pretty deeply embedded in the human being.
Okay.
I
That's,
think
yeah.
I think that's the soul. I think our intuitive thinking skill set is like the seat of the soul in Gary Zukav. But
Hmm.
rational thinking, that toolbox, the extra bit that helps us be productive in a technological society, yeah, we're going to lose those.
Right.
Now, and memory skills, really, from a psychological perspective, if I lose my memory skills, I lose what Daniel Kahneman calls the remembering self, the
Right.
bit of me that goes to the past. And I enjoy it. I reminisce, or maybe I
Hmm.
don't enjoy it. Maybe it was really traumatic. But that bit goes away. But that doesn't mean that my experiential self goes away because it's fully operational because I've got my intuitive thinking skills.
Right.
I'm always
That's,
experiencing,
mhm.
even if I can't tell you about it, even if I can't explain it, I still experience it.
That's incredible. So how can caregivers then start using their intuitive skills to help the person with dementia? Can you give us like 3 takeaways about
Yeah,
how they can best do that?
yeah, yeah. So the Dawn flower, what I do with the Dawn method, that's a feedback loop model for Abraham Maslow, who taught that we need to feel secure before we can enjoy self-actualization or well-being or any of those things. So at the very center is mood management. And this
Okay.
is the most helpful thing I learned from my clients. And actually it was the biggest gift I've ever received from another human being ever, was the understanding of how mood is managed by people.
Hmm.
And when I
Right.
lose my memory skills, I lose knowledge of why your face is wearing a frown or a smile or looks worried or looks irritated.
Hmm.
I won't be able to use my memory skills to know why you don't look happy. But when I lose my rational thinking skills, whatever you're wearing is going to all be about me. It's about me because I can't analyze why you might be worried or why you
Right.
might be looking concerned at me.
Hmm.
And so the that loss, that combination of losses, rational thinking and memory skills, when I experience dementia, I become unable to manage my own moods.
Okay.
Can't do it. I don't have those skills.
Right.
But that also means that whatever your mood is, I won't be able to avoid receiving it and reflecting it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the biggest gift I can give to somebody who spends time with people who are experiencing dementia. Whatever expression you're wearing, whatever your body language says, and boy, they know you well, don't they? Especially if you're spouses or children. Whatever your nonverbal communication is, it is having the biggest effect on your companion's mood. This is the only relationship ever in life where you actually are responsible for somebody else's mood. And it's only happening only because they don't have the skills to avoid your mood.
Right.
Yeah. So start there. Just start right there with mood management. If we could just understand that our nonverbal communication is prepping and causing all the emotions, then we can avoid embarrassing people
Hmm.
and frustrating people, and just, you know, the peaceful smile. Most of us have a default frown,
Hmm.
but develop a peaceful smile mask. Say your grief, your concern, your worry, all your mountain of worries, everything you are attempting to take care of for this individual who doesn't have rational thinking skills, can't make good decisions on their own, not without your help. You have to hide that when you're in their presence.
Right.
You can't fully hide it, so make yourself a mask, a peaceful smile mask, and try to hide it behind that.
Okay. And what's the next level after
Next,
the mood? So what are the next two things that caregivers need to address or be aware of?
number two, I would say, is understand that our primary need as human beings is a sense of security.
Mm, yes.
If you are losing the ability to retain information using memory skills, or if you're losing the ability to look back in your mind and consider and know what has happened before, you have no ability to properly interpret the present, you're going to feel at risk.
Right.
And this would be, you know, step number two in the Dawn method is the sense of security in confusion. Because if I can't remember, if I don't have memory skills anymore, I am going to become more and more confused. My sense of reality will diverge ever more from everybody else's. So um, the that is number two. And actually, there's, you know, just using Daniel Kahneman did so much wonderful research in behavioral psychology.
Mhm.
I love that book of his, Thinking Fast and Slow. But not in the book. He has, you know, if you can just research him and look back on some of his, in his career, some of the studies they did. But, you know, when we put a smile on our faces, just by
Mhm.
activating these muscles here, we're actually raising our own mood level. You know,
Yep.
like that's one of the things that his research showed us. But if somebody can't retain information, they start asking questions.
Mhm.
All right, so here we are. Let's say it's me and my husband. My husband is the one experiencing dementia, and he says, Judy, what are we doing today? And I tell him, well, if he's lost his memory skills entirely, 3 seconds later, he's going to say, hey, Judy, what are we doing today?
Exactly.
Oh man, I got to tell him again. Okay, now I'm getting irritated. Now my body language looks like, and he knows, because, you know, he knows he can pick my mood up in a heartbeat walking into
Mhm.
a room. Now he knows I'm irritated. Now we got problems.
Mhm.
Now we're going to have a bad day. Things are going to go from bad to worse. So what do we do when a person can't retain and retrieve information? We get irritated. Why?
Mhm.
Well, because everybody's got memory skills. Why should we have to repeat ourselves?
Exactly.
Ah,
Mhm.
but some of us don't. And this is like demanding the person who has no vision skills that they see where you're pointing. So you just change your expectations. And the really cool thing about it, there's so many paradoxes in dementia. Everything's
Mhm.
paradox. But the cool thing is, if you answer happily, no concern, no worry, no reprobation, nothing, everything's fine. You can ask me a million times. I'm going to tell you, oh, I thought we'd go to the park today.
Mhm.
3 seconds later, we're going to, I was thinking we'd go to the park today. If it's not a problem to ask, we learn that we don't need to ask immediately. We can put it off.
Okay.
This process, if you're the primary caregiver, this process will take about 2 to 3 weeks. Humans learn a new habit in about 2 to 3 weeks. And if my husband is asking constant questions and it's driving me crazy, I'm increasing the problem. He'll ask more. On the other
Yes.
hand, if he's asking constant questions and it never bothers me and I answer every time, he will learn it's safe to not know what's going on. And when my clients learn that, they say, well, when they learn mood management from me, it's like, oh, whenever we're together, we have fun. True, we do. And then for security and confusion, I know they got it with me when they say, so where are we going? What's happening? What are we doing? Oh, it's okay. I know you know. And they've already learned it. Whenever we're together, we have fun. So that
Mhm.
to me would empower caregivers more than anything else. And it's the first two things I teach.
Fantastic. I love that. Um, Working on mood management and then on security, because you're right.
Yeah.
They really need to know that they're going to be safe,
Yeah.
and that it only matters to them that you're making it safe for them. So I like the idea of telling them for at least like 2 to 3 weeks so that they can calm down and be more assured that whatever's happening is okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Can you tell people, this has been a fantastic discussion. I'd love to talk to you longer, and we'll have to do a second part.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us how they can get in touch with you so that they could become more knowledgeable about the Dawn method and how to best use it with their loved one.
Okay. Yeah. The website is thedawnmethod.com. But Dawn is DAWN. That's Dementia and Alzheimer's Wellbeing Network. And so
Perfect.
it's an acronym for Dawn. And I picked that on purpose. It's a
I know
dawning.
you did, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a positive story, not a negative, not a sunset. And everything's on the website. We've got a series of videos for families, like a subscription where you can have the whole family use them and learn the techniques. We've got private classes taught by dementia coaches. So there's the dementia coaches, and it's 8 classes over 8 weeks. And boy, after 8 weeks, you've got it down. You've really learned a new way to interact. And then, of course, I've got the 2 books, but lots of information on the website.
Thank you so much. Just having the videos and knowing that there's other resources like group coaching and things and access to your books really should encourage caregivers to learn more about this approach, because I think then they'll be more willing to do
Yeah.
the position and then to be more accepting of the person that they're working with. So it could be a more nurturing, more purpose-filled relationship.
Accepting, right?
Yes.
Because really all of us, every one of us, we all have a differing set of cognitive skills.
Mhm.
Some of us are great at rational thinking, some of us are great at intuitive, some of us have wonderful memory skills, some of us have really good attention skills. We're all different.
Yes.
And dementia exacerbates it, but really it's just about accepting each other for what cognitive skills we have at our disposal today, right now, in the present.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Judy. This has been an incredible journey to learn more about the Dawn method and how best to approach clients so that they can have a better and accepting relationship with the person that they're caring for.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Caregiver Cast today. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. Get involved with the show. Send your email to mpetrucci2002@gmail.com. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of Caregiver Cast.